Hey everyone, it's Types, and today I'm going to be looking at Pokemon Card 151, or Scarlet and Violet 151, which is obviously it's the new set, and we're going to be looking at how good it is for GLC. So I don't know all the pre-evolutions, so I'm not going to be talking about that too much, and honestly that's not that important or interesting, unless they're like super interesting pre-evolutions, but I'm going to be talking about like the full evolutions. So first of all, obviously we have like there are a lot of EXs in the set, so we're just going to be skipping those by. Obviously, could use some of these pure evolutions, so they're okay. But I don't know. Like, I don't know exactly the best pre-evolution for all these. But anyways, so first of all, let's look at this Butterfree. This Butterfree is pretty interesting. Butterfree, 130 HP. First of all, a Whirlwind 60. Switch out your opponent's active to the bench. Isn't great, but it's not garbage. There's a Metapod and Caterpie that allow you to evolve, I believe, instantly, which is pretty nice. And then bye-bye flight, choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, shuffle that Pokemon and all cards attached to it into their deck, then shuffle those Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your deck. Um, I don't know, it's okay, it's interesting disruption. Theoretically, you can like get anything into their deck, so if they have a weird deck where they're focused on just setting up one Pokemon, this could be good, but for the most part, I don't think this card's particularly strong. But the fact that it does evolve from the Metapod and kind of he does give it um, some amount of like viability. I still don't think it's a great card though. Next up, we got this Beedrill with Nadir Needle. First of all, Pierce 110 for 2 isn't garbage, but it's not great. There are some better Beedrills. But then here we got Nadir Needle. 30. And then if you have no cards in it for 2 colors, if you have no cards in your hand, it does 120 more. Your opponent's active is now paralyzed and poisoned. Obviously, generally the paralysis isn't going to be very useful in GLC because they're going to have, they're going to die. You're not really looking for 2 shots. So this will do essentially 160, which is pretty solid. I feel like this attack isn't awful, but there are some other bead drills, and I don't know exactly what this would fit into super easily. So overall, I don't think this bead drill is too great, but it's not awful either. Um, let's see. I mean, this Pidgey with Call for Family is good. Pidgeot, which has like Fly, which is either a damage and a good chunk of damage and immunity on a coin flip, or it does nothing. So you could pair this with, so it's 150 and immunity on a coin flip, which is good, but obviously doing nothing is bad. Um, you got the very good Pidgeotto as well to draw. And then like if you flip heads, it's really good. You can get 75% chance of flipping. Actually, you can guarantee it with Will. You can have 75% chance with Gloom Tangle. I don't know if there's any other way of getting 75% chance, like reflipping. But yeah, I feel like this card's okay. 150 is a very solid chunk of damage. And then immunity is obviously going to be very good as well. It's not immune to effects, but it's immune to damage. I don't hate this card. Powering it up is a little awkward though, depending on the list you're running. But overall, I think this card definitely has some potential to see play. And this Rattata Eradicate line is really interesting. There is the one that puts him down to 10, but the Rattata and Eradicate do more for each damage counter with them. Rattata is 20 and 10 more for each damage counter. Eradicate's 30 and 30 more, so you need to do very little. However, you kind of want some color spread setup attacker, of which there are a few. There's Spinda and Assume Braviary. I know, wait, no, Assume Braviary. Never mind, that one's not, doesn't do it. But there's like Spinda, there's probably a few others, but for the most part, I don't think this is like a I think it's a good card, but I don't think it's great for colorless. Yeah, I don't know if this will see play. It's HP of 70 is also quite low, which is a bit underwhelming. Fear Retreat's pretty cool. I actually didn't realize I had Fear Retreat. So I think it's an okay card. So we got Spear and Pharaoh. So it can evolve a turn one going second as well with this ability. But Pharaoh here, search deck for 3 cards and then put them into your hand. With your attack, obviously it's pretty solid. There's not insane amounts of disruption. And speed dive 50 for one, which isn't particularly good, but it's not completely garbage either. I think Pharaoh is almost good enough, but probably not, just a little short. You could definitely consider putting this in your deck though. I don't hate this card, but I think it's not. I don't think it's the best card either. So yeah, I'd say Pharaoh's just alright. Probably not good enough, unfortunately. Raichu here is really interesting. There are some really interesting Raichus as well. I play Lightning, so I know a lot about Lightning. And there's some okay Raichus, but this Raichu is very solid. 180 for 3 and 50 to itself. 180 is like a very good chunk of damage, especially because Lightning struggles to find like high amounts of damage, and then you can go in with electrical grounding when it's pretty much EXP share. So that's like a nice ability. We've seen this before in Lantern. This Raichu's probably a little better. Lantern um, does like same ability, I think same name, but then it hits a little bit less, and it has to discard energy, so it can't necessarily attack next turn. Raichu obviously damages itself a bunch though, so it'll almost definitely die next turn. It doesn't put it into like puny health range. I mean, it's down to 70, which isn't great, but it's not like the worst. You're not gonna, just gonna die from some weird tap. Like if you go down to like 30 or something like that, then you can definitely die to something weird. But I think this Raichu is okay. I think this Raichu is pretty good. 180 is a good chunk of damage to hit. Like it's a very solid amount of damage. So I think this Raichu is definitely viable. Um, I think actually I think it's pretty good. The fact that damage itself wasn't great. There are some ways to stop that as well, but actually yeah, that might be good because then there are a number of cards that stop self damage that could be played. There's a card that stops self damage, and there are a lot of self damage lightning attackers. So I actually think this Raichu is very good. We'll make its way into a lot of lightning decks. Let's see. Uh, so this is an interesting card, Sandshrew here. First of all, Sand Slash, I'll talk about that. 30, they can't retreat, or 80. If they have damage on them, it does 180, which is good, I guess, but this card's not that good. I feel like there are better um, attackers, so I'm not a big fan of this in the fighting-based decks, which are just like big hit attack decks. Sandshrew here, interesting. Training cards in your opponent's discard can't be put um, into their deck by an effective item or supporters. This stops okay, this doesn't stop Versus Seeker or like Syndicatelin or Lusamine, which are all good. It does stop Palpad. This card's probably not very good. It's a very niche tech, I don't know. In some situation, it might be worth running. There's Nido Queen and Nido King. Nido Queen immune to basics, and then Nido King says Nido Queen gets free attacks. It also has an attack of its own, but it's not great. Okay, I guess I'll read his attack. It's 190 for um. Oh wait, no, Nido King attacks are free if you have Nido Queen in play. Okay, so it does 190. It's either for Dark, Colorless, which and then Poison. So it essentially should one shot pretty much anything. Um, it's a very good chunk of like damage. Obviously, it's very strong, but the attack cost is awkward. But it's the same as Guzzler as well, which you'll definitely power up. But Guzzler is a basic, not a stage two, and it has B string and has so like that meets its worse. But Nidoking you could get powered. Even you could Raihan Dark Patch attach a double turbo, and it's powered up. So I think Dino King is potentially, I think it's okay. I don't actually hate this card. I mean, its big HP is really nice. And then Nido Queen to play, getting both in play is going to be very awkward, but not impossible, certainly. On the later turns, you could certainly have it. Obviously, prizing can get very sketchy, but since you need like 6 cards, I suppose you could, excuse me. I suppose you could prize a middle evolution and then Rare Candy, but still, that's kind of awkward. So Nidoqueen, though, is also interesting. Queen Press, 90 and you're immune to basics, and 160 for 3. Actually, these aren't bad. I think these Nidoqueen, Nidoking could be put into a GLC deck. I don't know exactly how you'd build the list. It would be similar to normal lists. Probably not, because they don't really play stage 2s. So, yeah, I think this Nidoqueen and Nidoking is pretty solid, though. I don't know if they're quite good enough. They're a bit awkward, but they're pretty cool as well. Clefable, a really good card. So first of all, switch in when your opponent's bench to the active. It's just a gust. It's pretty alright, but nothing insane. But then you got More Moon, which is a weird name for an attack, but we've seen weirder. For 3 Psychic 50, which obviously isn't great, but if you get the KO, then you take another prize, which is very good. I'm looking at this in Psychic Spread, which in my opinion is like one of the best decks in GLC. Psychic's probably the best. I don't know if it's the best type, but it's a very good type. Clefable though, just seeing giving you an extra prize is just very good. There's also have to say there's that Fairy Clefable, which there is a Fairy Clefable, but obviously it's not a psychic card, so you can't play it in the same deck. But yeah, I think that this Clefable is pretty good. Because it lets you, it just gives you extra prize. It's not like super consistent, and taking extra prize or getting KOs, I should say, but it could be a finisher as well. So it's like ideally you ping a bunch of different your opponent's different Pokemon, and then you finish them off with Clefable, and then you get like a bunch of extra prizes. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. We got Zubat says if it's in the active, your opponent can reveal their hands. Um, okay, I was trying to, yeah, this could be okay. I think there's another Zubat though that's Fear 2, which is probably a little better. Um, because there's the Golbat and Crobat, which like draw cards on play, which see some play. Okay, next we got Gloom and Vileplume. Gloom and Vileplume are pretty interesting. So there are a lot of really good Vileplumes I know, but I mean this Gloom's pretty good, I think. So it says, yeah, the other Gloom isn't like that good. So Semi-Bloomy Energy says when you evolve this by playing it from your hand, so you can't Evo Soda this or Wally it, that will not work as you want. But or even in like standard, if you use Realm Executor, it would mark. Oh wait, this is the weed Pokemon or what? I did not know Gloom was the weed Pokemon. Whatever. Okay. So yeah, you look at the top three cards of your deck and accelerate any number of basic energy. You find there to your Pokemon any way you like, and then shuffle the other cards. So that's okay. Obviously, it's not a ton of energy acceleration, but potentially some. This other one's the same thing, except you look at the top eight cards, which is pretty solid. I don't know if this has a ton of synergy. And Vileplume, there are some insane Vileplumes. There's the basic walling one, which is good, and then there's the item locking one, which is pretty crazy. It item locks you too, but it's a good card. So I think these are both good cards, though. Grass is kind of a weird type. You have like Rillaboom, which kind of doesn't have obvious synergy with this card because you're going to be taking energy out of Rillaboom, so you can't hit him as much as Vileplume, but whatever. And then that's synergy with the Venusaur, which just doubles the energy, which is cool. I think Vileplume though, its attack's really bad as well. Or it's not like awful, but it's not good. So I don't think Vileplume's quite good enough. Next up we got Parasect. This one's interesting. So you flip two coins, search your deck for a grass Pokemon up to the number of heads, and put them onto your bench. This can obviously be like evolution Pokemon. I think this card's not bad at all, but I think it's a bit too inconsistent. Uh, but with like Force of Giant Plants not being playable, I think it's okay. Oh, this Venomoth is insane. Speaking of item lock, grass. Oh, I honestly completely forgot about this card. I really have to play this card. Perplexing Powder, 30. Your opponent's active is now confused. On your opponent's next turn, they can't play any item cards from their hand. I mean, this is very good. Item lock is just very good. I think this card's pretty bonkers. Yeah, Venomoth, super good. I think you should 100% play this in grass. I know people won't play it as much as they should, and I think this card's very good. Doug Trio, bad. Persian, bad. Golduck, bad. Primeape, bad. Arcanine, like not particularly good. You don't really need to. Yeah, I think the other Canine's better. Poliwrath. I don't like know these cards super well, which probably means they're bad. Yeah, these aren't good. Um, this Machamp's decent. I mean, the whole line's decent. It's like some soft mill, but the Machamp says for soul 100 for two fighting, discard the top two of your opponent's deck, but more importantly, guts if it would be knocked out. Flip coin, and if heads, it's not, and HP's down to 10. That's a very good ability. There's the other Machamp, which is also super broken. So I don't know if this one's quite good enough to see play. It's a very good card, but I don't know if it's as good as the other one. Still very solid. Next up, we got Victory Bell, which is very interesting. 120 for 2, and then does 12 at the end of your opponent's next turn. Obviously, they're probably going to switch though, so it's probably not going to be good enough. Um, Tentacruel, which is like some coin flip stuff. It's not a particularly great card. Let's see. I don't think most of these are particularly good. Oh, you can do 160 for 3 of the Slowbro. Um, Not if you evolve this turn, but I think this card's okay, but it's not great. Ooh, Magnet. Oh, what? This is very good. Magneton for 1 lightning, put up to 2 ending cards from discard into your hand. That's very good. Lightning Control is like an actual decent deck. It's a bit of an inconsistent deck, but this Magneton is very good. This will allow you to like scoop up Net Loop, which is very, very good for like Shock Lock. I think this Magneton is kind of broken. Okay, next. Oh, Farfetch. No. Dodrio though. Dodrio, absolutely insane. Well, okay, it's a very good card. I don't know if it's actually insane in colorless decks, but it's an insane card. Zooming draw, you once during turn you can draw a card and put 1 damage counter on it. You have to put the damage counter. You can KO yourself as well if you want to do that for whatever reason. But then a Ballistic Beak, 10 to 30 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon for one colorless. This can hit pretty solidly for only one energy. It's a draw engine, so it's both a good attacker and a decent engine. I think Dodrio is very good for colorless deck. I think pretty much every colorless deck should play it because it's low maintenance, actually helps your deck being in play. So yeah. Also, this card looks so much like Anki Bears. I didn't realize that before, but I love this art. Um, and Dugong 50 to 2 for 2, which is okay, I guess, and 100 for 3, but nothing insane. Let's see, Mark, Sticky Jail, during your points next turn, their attack cost is 1 more, and the retreat is 1 more, 180 for 4 as well. Not great. Um, let's see, oh, Cloister, this is really interesting, 80 for 2, and then it takes 80 less next turn. That is a very good card, a very, like, tanky card. So yeah, I think this Cloister is really cool. I don't know the other clusters super well. I think there's a rapid strike one, which is kind of okay, but not great. I think this cluster is decent. Um, I mean, it's just super tanky. It's like essentially as tanky as snow. This card is actually very good. Like the more I look at it, like even in standard, this is okay. Obviously they can like gust around and all that stuff, but this cluster is very solid. Gengar, 50 for each train in your opponent's hand, and then 110, and then 30 to the bench any way you like, which is pretty solid. I think this Gengar is a decent card, with some like funny art as well. So yeah, I think this Gengar is not bad. You might want to have some ways to peek at your opponent's hand. Like Ace of Hose, Premonition of Choi, my favorite cards. But yeah, I think this Gengar is not too bad. Choi would definitely be kind of sketchy in GLC because showing your opponent your hand will generally not be great, but I think it's okay. Next, just go to the top 5 guys of your deck and does 80 for each Pokemon, and the tree cost of exactly 4. Yeah, this seems way too inconsistent, unfortunately. Hypno, when you evolve, your opponent's asleep. That's okay, but not that good. Let's see. Oh, Kingler, 220 for 4. I mean, there are better options. Electrode, you discard any number of tools for your Pokemon in play. 40 for each tool. I feel like this requires a very specific style of deck. You could play Pachirisu, but I don't think there are any other lightning tool drop Pokemon. There's like Groudon V, but that's a V. So yeah, you can use Electrode and Pachirisu, which are both like okay cards, I guess, but it's damage multiplier, so it's 20 and 40 for each tool you discard. So if you discard 3 tools, I mean you're doing 140, which is pretty good. But I don't think it's quite worth it. Also, there's another decent Electrode. Let's see, Marowak 30 and 30, and then 120 for 2. Honestly, this Marowak's not too bad. 30 and 30 is not bad, and 120 for 2 again isn't awful. You can attack next turn, but overall, I think this Marowak's a decent. It's a fun card. I don't know if it's quite good enough though. Next up, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. uh, these aren't bad. 60, and then next turn you hit 60 more, bro. What does this add? Okay, and then counterattack. Oh, why do I have these massive ads? Okay, well, let's just open it here. If this Pokemon is in the act, can you even see this? Yeah, okay. If it's in the active and damage from attack, your opponent puts 3 damage counters on their active. So that's kind of annoying for them. I think this Hitmonchan is actually pretty good. Hitmonlee, Bro, Limitless. Why do you have so many ads? 10 to your opponent's Pokemon. And then you wait. This hit and run switches from your bench too. Oh, that's really interesting. I know some people like the Hitmon deck, and this is not like the Hitmon combo. But yeah, this is not bad. Hit and run and spread. That's a pretty solid aspect. Next up, we got Lickitung is not bad. 70 for 3, and next turn they can't attack. Honestly, this is a very solid attacker. I don't know if it's quite good enough in GLC. In Staring, this is really interesting though. Wheezing 50 to the active and 10 to each of your opponent's bench just isn't awful. Then its ability is really interesting. Less of blast if it's in the active and KO'd. Your opponent's on a coin flip. Your opponent's active is also KO'd. I don't know if this is quite good enough, but it's very interesting. I mean, there's like Learn Reason as well, which is super good. Um, I'd say this card has potential, but it's probably not quite good enough. Let's see, Rhydon. If you play Giovanni's Charisma, you do 180, which is good, but like you only have 1 on that, so probably not good. Chansey, if you take it as a prize on a coin flip, you take an extra prize. Essentially, you also need it takes the bench spot, but overall, Chansey is like pretty insane, but it's like inconsistent. It's probably not ever gonna work particularly well, but theoretically, it's very good. Yeah, I don't know if this Chansey is ever going to be good enough, but it's a funny card, and there are ways of sending it. Wait, what's Arc Phone do? Does Arc Phone let you? Is it that? Yeah, look at you can sort the top card of your deck with one of your face down prizes. So you can use Arc Phone to put Chansey in, as well as Peonia, which are both solid. So I think this card has some potential. Um, Tangela, if you played Erica's Invitation, you hit more, which is okay, but it doesn't have that much energy. Erica's Invitation is not a particularly great card outside of maybe Control. Let's see. Seeker, not that good. Seeking, not particularly good. Starmie, though, really interesting. This ability says you can discard from play, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Really interesting card. I don't know if it's quite again good enough, but because there's some other very good Starmies. There's the Rapid Strike one, and there's the Energy Accelerating one. But and this Starmie has serious potential. Um, and you have the as the Rapid Strike Starmie says Rapid Strike Star U, which you can use just which you can search out. I don't know if Water Spread's quite good enough, but it's an interesting deck. Let's see. Mr. Mime says if this Pokemon has the same amount of energy as your opponent's active, bro, what is this? These ads. Then prevent all damage done to it. But I feel like most decks have energy acceleration, so this could be good in niche cases, but very niche cases. Uh, let's see. Pincer, if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, you hit 180 for 3. Yeah, that's pretty broken. This Pincer is a very good card. Late game, obviously, it's like if you're winning it, it's bad. But aside, like even 90 for 3 is not awful on a basic. And 180 for 3 is very good. So yeah, this Pincer is good. Let's see. Katoris is pretty underwhelming. Gyarados, again, like 200 for 4 is good, but you do have to discard the top 5 cards of your deck when you have all this. Um, which is not too good. Ditto can like switch. It's not a very good card. Evolution Shadows can't really play. Actually, this like Lapras lets you search when you set up. It's kind of like Lone Vulpix. It's not free, which is probably just worse. Um, but yeah, Aqua Edge is okay and 110-ish, but he's obviously better than Lone Vulpix, is like 70 or whatever. Porygon can change weakness, but that doesn't seem super useful unless you're playing like Kecleon, which doesn't seem good. Almost Star, if it's in the active your opponent can't retreat and does 90 and 30 to 2 benched, but I feel like this is very awkward. Kabutops, 4 times weakness, doesn't seem too useful. Aerodactyl, oh, the Aerodactyl is insane. All those are really good Aerodactyl as well. Actually, it's not, yeah, it's not too good for GLC. It's 100 and then devolves, which is actually okay. It'll get KOs pretty nicely. So maybe this Aerodactyl's good. Because it's in standard you're like losing a prize when you do this sometimes. If you evolve like an devolve an EX, but Aerodactyl is very good, I think, because it does evolve from a unique fossil as well, which probably is bad, but it evolves from a different fossil, which gives you some interesting implications. Snorlax can recover leftovers, which is okay, but I don't think you're quite gonna have enough tank to get away with it. And there are a number of other really good songs as well. Articuno, 110 and 10 to each your opponent's bench, free of true the water energy, not an awful card, but not great. Moltres, though, discard 2 fire. You do 120 snipe to the bench, and then it has free or 2 with fire energy. I think this is worth it in Armarouge deck. So this Moltres is okay, but I don't think too many people are playing Armarouge. Dragonite here, 180 for 2, just because the top 2 cards of your own deck, and it has your Pokemon play have no retreat cost. Not an awful card, but there are some better Dragonites. Mewtwo, there's a better Mewtwo, unfortunately. Yeah. I'll read it. It's 20 if it's KO, or if it's damage, even if it's KO, put damage counters equal on the attacking Pokemon equal to the damage done to you, which can be okay at certain situations, but it's not amazing. Side Slash for 130 for 2, and then for 3, discard 2. Okay, maybe this card's good enough to see play. Maybe I'm undervaluing it, but there's some other very good Mewtwo's as well. Then we got the Fossils, and they're funny cards, but I don't think they're really going to be too useful most of the time. Yeah, so big air balloon for your treat on stage 2 just doesn't seem too useful. Bill's transfer, look at the top 8. If you get any Pokemon you find there, again, not too great. Cycling Road, a stadium that says you can discard a basic energy to draw a card. This is actually decent. Obviously, it depends very heavily on the deck you're playing, and I can't think of specifically what would want this because it's not that much draw, but it's not an awful card either. Daisy's help, draw 2, look at your face down prizes. Okay, this is really good for GLC. Oh, it's really interesting for GLC. Theoretically it's very good, but I don't know if in practicality it's actually. as good as it seems, but looking at your face down prices, it's something some people really like. It's not something. Um, I guess it's good. I guess it's a pretty good card. Um, I don't know if I think I think this card will see play. I personally like it much more than Town Map. I don't like that Town Map gives your opponent um like visuals on what your prices are. I feel like that like really hurts. Um, I think a lot of players honestly aren't like good enough, or at least they don't care enough to like take advantage of it. But it's actually super useful knowing what your opponent takes as their prizes, because then it gives you some hand knowledge. Um, and so like and you also get a knowledge in their hand based on like the decisions they make. So you can, if they take like a draw sport, they probably don't have a draw sport and things like that. So with the town map, so these help you will not know what they're taking, which is very useful. Energy sticker is okay. It's on like one flip, accelerate basic energy from your discard to one of your bench. It's okay. Erica's Invitation, though, interesting card. It drags a Pokemon from their hand onto their bench and then into the active. A basic. It's not the most consistent card, unfortunately, but overall, I think it's okay in control. Juvi's Charisma, broken card. Put energy from your opponent's active into their hand, and if you do, attach a basic energy from your hand to your active. Does not need to be a basic. It's not always active, but I think this card's very good. There's a lot of energy acceleration, but I think Giovanni's Christmas is a pretty good card. Next up we got Grabber. Put uh put a Pokemon from your opponent's hand onto the bottom of their deck. It's minor disruption, but probably never good enough. Leftover is a very good card at the end of your turn if it's in the active. Heal 20 from your active. It's just pretty solid healing over the course of the game. Obviously, need a tanky Pokemon. But I think there's some serious options for tanky base next. Protective Goggles, basic Pokemon has no weakness. There's already weakness policy, probably not. This won't ever be good enough to see play. Rigid Band though, stage one gets takes 30 less. Then there's what is it? The dumbbells. Yeah, bodybuilding dumbbells, which is a kind of a weird name for a card. Stage one gets 40 more HP, so Rigid Band is a little arguably worse, but they're different cards. I think Rigid Band is good enough to see play, and we'll see play sometimes, but we'll have to wait and see. Overall, though, what are your favorite cards from this set? I'm interested in hearing that for GLC, also for Standard, and what you want to see me play. Um, so yeah, but I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, consider subscribing. It's free; you can undo it at any time. And sorry, my voice is not happy. But as always, I'm excited to see you next time.